You don't abandon your goals because you're lazy. You abandon them because your brain is terrified of what your goal will force you to face. And the worst part is you don't even notice it happening because your brain doesn't sabotage you with drama, with good explanations that feel responsible and mature. You imagine a new version of yourself like it's already real, and you mistake that feeling for progress. It's a decision you repeat when the feeling disappears, because motivation is a chemical spark, not a permanent engine. The moment your goal becomes real, meaning the moment it asks for effort, repetition, boredom, uncertainty, your nervous system reacts. A strange urge to check something real quick, and you tell yourself it's normal. You tell yourself you're just tired. You tell yourself you'll do it later, but later is the first step of quitting. Your brain has a job: keep you safe. And safety does not mean happiness. A goal means you will enter a phase where you are bad at something. It means you will fail publicly or privately. It means you will create evidence proof about your limits. And that is psychologically dangerous to the ego, because the ego doesn't want truth, it wants protection. So your brain begins a silent strategy. It reduces the intensity of your desire. It makes the goal feel less important. It pulls your attention toward comfort. It highlights everything that could go wrong. It whispers, what if you waste your time? What if you try and nothing changes? What if you succeed and now people expect more? Yes, your brain can even fear success. An identity change feels like losing yourself. Most people think their biggest enemy is distraction, but distraction is only the delivery system. The real enemy is emotional avoidance, because goals force you to sit inside discomfort for long periods of time. The discomfort of repeating the same action when no reward arrives. The discomfort of not knowing if it will work. The discomfort of being average for longer than you want. And if your brain associates discomfort with danger, it will do anything to remove it. You feel like you took care of yourself, and your brain stores that as learning. Avoidance works. So next time, resistance comes earlier. You don't quit in one decision. You quit in micro exits. I'll skip today. I'll do it when I feel more focused. And every time you negotiate, you train your brain to believe your goals are optional. Then something dangerous happens. You stop trusting yourself. You stop believing your own promises. Your words feel cheap to your own mind. You say, I'm going to change. And some part of you hears it like a joke. This is why goals feel heavier the older you get. Now, your brain doesn't just fear the goal, so it protects you from the humiliation of trying. It will not tell you, quit. It will tell you, be realistic. And sometimes those things are true, so it becomes impossible to separate truth from sabotage. That's why you need to understand the structure of abandonment, not just the emotion of it. Because if you keep treating this like a discipline problem, you will keep applying force to the wrong place. You will keep blaming your character instead of recognizing the system. Here is the hidden truth. Your brain interprets your goals as a threat to your current identity. And identity is the most protected thing you have. If you've been the person who starts but doesn't finish, finishing would require you to become someone else. And becoming someone else means letting go. The comfort of the familiar version of you, even if that version is miserable. That's why people stay stuck in routines they hate. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar freedom. So when you ask, why do I abandon my goals? The real question is, what part of you is afraid of the person you'd become if you didn't abandon them? And once you see that, you stop asking for motivation, and you start building something stronger. Tolerance for discomfort, tolerance for uncertainty, and a new identity that doesn't require emotional permission to act. Because the goal isn't the real battle. The battle is who you have to be every day while the goal is still silent, still unrewarding, still uncertain. And most people lose right there quietly because nobody taught them how to stay. You think you lost motivation, but what actually happened is your brain stopped rewarding the idea and demanded proof. In the beginning, goals are fantasies. Fantasies are cheap for the brain. They cost nothing. You can imagine the outcome and get a dopamine hit without any risk. That's why the start feels so good. You're high on possibility, but dopamine is not a reward for hard work. Dopamine is a reward for anticipation. It spikes when you think something good might happen. Then it fades. And when it fades, your brain stops giving you the emotional energy that made action feel effortless. Now you're left with the part nobody posts online: repetition, the unglamorous grind, the silence, the waiting. And this is where your nervous system begins to complain, because you're doing work without certainty. Your brain hates uncertainty. It would rather have a guaranteed small reward than a possible bigger reward later. That's how survival wiring works. So when your goal doesn't deliver fast feedback, the brain reduces the perceived value of the goal. It literally makes it feel less important. This is not you changing your mind. This is your brain protecting its resources. Then your mind starts producing thoughts that sound like truth. Maybe this goal isn't for me. Maybe I chose wrong. Maybe I should do something else. And because those thoughts reduce pressure, they feel relieving, which makes them believable. Relief is the brain's proof. The deeper problem is that most people expect motivation to behave like a stable personality trait. I should feel motivated if I truly want it. That belief is a trap. Real wanting doesn't create stable emotion. Stable systems do. If you rely on motivation, you will only act when your brain rewards you emotionally. And that means you'll act in the easy phase and disappear in the hard phase. Your goal will always die at the same point, when excitement turns into responsibility. This is why discipline is misunderstood. Discipline isn't being tough. Discipline is the ability to act without emotional permission. It's the skill of doing the work while your brain complains. It's emotional maturity. And until you build that skill, motivation will keep tricking you. It will show up at the start, disappear in the middle, and return only when guilt becomes unbearable. Then you restart. Then you repeat. A goal doesn't need more motivation. It needs a structure that survives the collapse of motivation. A structure that assumes your brain will resist. A structure that makes action small enough to begin, but consistent enough to build identity. Because when motivation dies, your identity takes over. And if your identity is, "I never finish," your brain will protect that identity like it's law. Most people think procrastination is laziness. It isn't. Procrastination is what happens when your brain links a task to emotional pain. Not physical pain, emotional pain. The pain of uncertainty, embarrassment, pressure, and self-judgment. When you sit down to work on a goal, it's not the work that hits you first. It's the feelings. A slight anxiety. A sense of "I should be further." A fear of seeing how slow progress really is. The brain wants those feelings to stop now, not later. So it searches for relief. And relief is everywhere. Your phone offers quick dopamine. A video, a message, a scroll, a small burst of pleasure that wipes out the discomfort. That's why procrastination feels like you're choosing distraction. But it's not a free choice. It's an escape route. Every time you escape, your brain learns. Discomfort disappears when we avoid the goal. That learning becomes automatic. So next time, you feel resistance earlier and stronger. It can feel like the goal itself is pushing you away. Then you start using language that makes procrastination sound reasonable. I need to be in the right mood. I need to be focused. I need to plan better first. But what you're really saying is, I don't want to feel this discomfort. And because the brain values comfort, it will accept any excuse that reduces pressure, even if it destroys your future. The most dangerous part is what procrastination does to self-trust. Each delay sends your brain a message: we don't keep promises. And self-trust is not built by intention, it's built by evidence. Every time you delay, you weaken your evidence. So the goal starts to feel impossible not because it is, but because you've taught your brain to expect failure. Your brain doesn't believe you will follow through, so it stops giving you energy. This is why you can feel motivated and still procrastinate. Motivation is desire. Procrastination is fear. To stop procrastination, you don't need stronger willpower. You need to lower emotional threat. You need to make the first step so small that your brain doesn't panic. And you need to practice staying with discomfort long enough for your nervous system to realize you're safe. Because the moment your brain realizes that discomfort won't kill you, it stops treating the goal like danger. Goals aren't just tasks. Goals are identity threats. If you've lived as a certain version of yourself for years, your brain is invested in that version, even if you hate it, even if it hurts you, because that version is predictable. When you commit to a goal, you are committing to becoming someone else, someone who wakes up differently, someone who says no more often, someone who is consistent, someone who can't use the old excuses anymore. And that is terrifying to the ego, because the ego survives by staying familiar. This is why you can want change and still sabotage it, because one part of you wants the outcome, but another part wants the identity to remain untouched. If you've always been the person who struggles, then success creates a new pressure. Now you must maintain it. If you've always been the person who starts big, then small consistent work feels boring and beneath you. If you've always been the person who talks about goals, then actually finishing would expose all the years you didn't. Identity holds emotional comfort, and your brain will pick emotional comfort over progress. That's why sometimes you quit right when things start working, right when you get momentum, because momentum threatens the old identity. Momentum removes excuses. Momentum turns fantasies into reality. And reality is where ego gets tested. People don't only fear failing, they fear being seen differently. They fear losing the sympathy they get when they struggle. They fear the loneliness of outgrowing their environment. They fear that if they succeed, they will discover it still doesn't fix the emptiness inside them. So they abandon the goal before it forces those truths to surface. The solution isn't to fight yourself, it's to understand the identity you're protecting. Ask, what do I get from staying the same? What discomfort am I avoiding by not becoming the person who finishes? Because once you name the identity conflict, you can stop treating resistance as proof you can't do it. Resistance becomes proof that you're changing. Perfectionism looks like high standards, but psychologically it's fear in a suit. It's fear of being judged, fear of being exposed, fear of doing the thing and discovering you're not special. Perfectionism creates an impossible condition. I will act when I can do it perfectly, but perfection is not a starting point. It's an excuse to delay. When you're a perfectionist, the first attempt feels like a performance. It feels like the world is watching, so you overthink, you plan, you research, you adjust, you wait, and because planning feels productive, you feel safe until you realize you haven't moved. Then you feel guilt, and guilt increases pressure, and pressure increases perfectionism, and the loop tightens. At some point, quitting becomes relief, not because you don't want the goal, but because you can't breathe under the pressure you created. Perfectionism also protects the ego. If you never fully try, you never fully fail. If you quit early, you can tell yourself you could have succeeded. That fantasy protects self-esteem. Real effort risks real results, and real results can hurt. So your brain chooses the safest outcome, unfinished. To break perfectionism, you need to redefine what progress is. Progress is not impressive performance. Progress is messy repetition. Progress is imperfect action that creates evidence. Evidence that you can handle discomfort. Evidence that you can survive mistakes. And once your brain learns that mistakes don't destroy you, standards stop being a prison and become a tool.
Your brain was never designed to wait. It was designed to survive. In nature, waiting too long meant danger. No food, no shelter, no certainty. So when you work toward a goal and nothing seems to change, your brain interprets that silence as a warning, not consciously, biologically. That's why the absence of results feels heavier than failure itself. Failure gives clarity, silence gives doubt, and doubt is unbearable for the mind. This is where many people misunderstand themselves. They believe they are losing interest, when in reality they are losing reassurance. Your brain wants evidence that the effort makes sense. When it doesn't get it, it starts conserving energy. It lowers motivation. It questions direction. It makes the goal feel less important than it actually is. That's not weakness. That's efficiency, at least from a survival perspective. But here's the trap. Most meaningful goals don't give feedback early. Growth happens quietly. Progress accumulates invisibly. And the brain hates invisible effort. So it begins to bargain. It says, let's pause until we see results. Let's try something that works faster. Let's do something that feels rewarding now. And in that moment, quitting doesn't feel like giving up. It feels like being smart. It feels like protecting your time, your energy, your mental health. But what your brain doesn't realize is that this logic is based on old rules. Rules that were useful for survival, but destructive for long-term growth. Because the truth is this: the middle phase of any goal is always quiet. No applause, no confirmation, no certainty. And the people who succeed are not the ones who avoid that silence. They are the ones who learn how to stay inside it without panicking. They don't interpret silence as failure. They interpret it as part of the process. This is the moment where most people leave, not because they can't continue, but because they don't know how to exist without reassurance. So if you've ever abandoned a goal right when nothing seemed to be happening, understand this clearly. You didn't stop because the goal was wrong. You stopped because your brain demanded proof too early. And until you learn how to continue without visible rewards, every goal will feel exciting at the start and unbearable in the middle. That's not where motivation dies. That's where patience is tested. And what happens next depends on whether you keep escaping that silence or finally learn how to stay.